Johnston here.
Grillo here.
Gavich here.
Scafidi here.
Kuzikowski here.
Rowley.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Item 2 is minutes of the October 25th, 2016 meeting. Carried.
Mr. Dickman makes a motion that we approve the minutes of the October 25th, 2016 meeting. Thank you, Kerry.
I jumped the gun on that one.
Gavich seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo aye.
Gavich, aye.
Scafidi, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye. Rowley.
Seifert abstains.
Chandler aye.
Item 3, significant common council actions. Carrie.
Okay, I'll take that one. Common Council approved a resolution approving a certified survey map for the properties at 200 and 228 East Ryan Road and 9444 and 9454 South Howell Avenue. Also a resolution designating the Tourism Commission as the tourism entity for the city of Oak Creek and approving an action plan for the use of hotel room tax revenue. Mr. Mayor.
That was quick. All right. Item 4 is a sign appeal hearing. It's a public hearing on a proposed sign appeal for the property at 7878 South Main Street. The tenant address is actually 330 West Town Square Way. It's submitted by Christina Hazy. Gigi's Cupcakes that would allow one 31.5 square foot wall sign on the southwest elevation, the non-entry facade of the building, or the Gigi's Cupcakes tenant space. Tax key number 813-9050. Pete.
And I'll read the public hearing notice into the record. City of Oak Creek, notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2016 at 6 p.m. located at Oak Creek City Hall Common Council Chambers at 8040 South 6th Street, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. The appellant is Christina Haas of Gigi's Cupcakes. Tax key number 813-9050-000. Property is located at 7978 South Main Street. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 17.0334, part of the General Development Plan and Regulating Plan, which states that wall-mounted signs are only permitted on entry facades. If granted, the variance would allow the applicant to install a 31.5 square foot wall sign on the southern elevation, which is a non-entry facade, with a tenant space located at 330 West Town Square Way. Zoning of the property is DTS MUP DD, Drexel Town Square Mixed Use Development District. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present, dated this 20th day of October, 2016, Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Wisconsin, signed Mayor Steve Scafidi, Chairman. This is a public hearing and is now open, and anyone who wishes to make a comment regarding the subject of this hearing to step forward to the podium, state your name, and proceed to address the commission with your comments. This hearing is now open.
I'll make 3 calls for public comment on this item. First call. Second call. Third and final call for public comment on item 4A. Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and move to item 5A under new business. It's a sign appeal request for the property at 7878 South Main Street, tenant address 330 West Town Square Way, submitted by Christina Hazy, Gigi's Cupcakes, that would allow one 31.5 square foot wall sign on the southwest elevation non-entry facade of the building for the Gigi's Cupcakes tenant space. Tax key number 813-9050. Open it up to the commission for questions, comments. Commissioner Dickman.
I just want, Pete, the number of signs then fits our ordinance okay. Everything's fine there. So the only real variance is just that one sign in the non-entry position. Is that correct?
Correct. At the October meeting, we looked at the other signs that they had as required by the Drexel Town Square zoning district. You have to do that. And so when this variance, if this variance were to be granted, they will have a total of 4 wall signs, 2 blade signs over on the entry facade on the corner, one on, and then a wall sign on the north side, and now they're looking for that extra sign on the south side, which faces the town square.
Commissioner Correll.
Already spoke about it. This is those same corner buildings, correct? They want visibility from both sides, pretty much a no-brainer.
Okay. Commissioner Chandler.
Is the applicant here? I just have a question about the signs and location.
Name and address for the record.
Christina Haas, 330 West Town Square Way.
I gave you extra syllable on your name. I apologize.
That's okay.
So for the 3 signs, they meet the requirements. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a 4th sign. Can you provide more information on the need for the fourth sign?
We're looking for the fourth sign because that is the most visible side of the building for us. It faces the town square. So that was the reason for that, is the most visibility.
Okay. And so all the signs, are they exactly the same?
The two wall signs are exactly the same, and then there are two blade signs that are identical as well.
Okay, so the fourth sign is a wall sign?
A wall sign, correct.
Okay.
What's up on the screen?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Comment?
Alderman Bekavich?
In considering the variances, just for the people that are out there, some of the conditions we are supposed to look at as commissioners are, will there be any public harm by allowing this sign, and shall it be a public benefit? I see we fit that, as Pat said. This seems to be a no-brainer. Will it enhance the overall character of the neighborhood? Yes. Will it cause any undue concentration of signage, which renders it difficult to read or decipher? I do not see that. And may the sign proposed have a depreciating property, a depreciating effect on the property or the neighborhood? I do not see that. So again, this is kind of a no-brainer. Given that layout of that building, I'm all in favor of it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Motion on 5A.
Corral moves the commission approve a variance from section 17.0334, part of the general development plan and regulating plan, which states that wall-mounted signs are only permitted on entry facades. If granted, the variance would allow the applicant to install a 31.5 square foot wall sign on the south elevation of the tenant space located at 330 West Town Square Way.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Well,
David Chai.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Good luck. What date are we looking at? December 5th. All right. That's not too far away. All right. Looking forward to it. All right, moving on. 5B is a plan review of site building and landscaping and lighting plan submitted by the Waters Senior Living Management, LLC, for a senior living facility at 8000 South Market Street, tax key number 813-9065. Carrie.
This is a site plan review for a 4-story senior independent living and memory care facility. It is located within Drexel Town Square, actually to the east of the existing Civic Center, which is where we are right now. On your screen right now is the proposed site plan, and as I zoom in, you will notice a few things. It is a U-shaped building. There is, there we go. It is in the mixed-use sub-district. The building is oriented parallel to Market Street. There are build-to zones and mixed land building and landscape zones. Those requirements appear to be met in the proposal. The proposal includes 119 independent living and 16 memory care apartment units. I apologize for the size that's on your screen, but this is the first floor layout. A few things that I wanted to draw your attention to. There are cafe, pub, and restaurant areas, community rooms, wellness rooms, salons, and lounge areas scattered throughout the first floor, as well as staff offices and facilities. The bistro, cafe, and pub activate the northwest corner, which is on this side here. That activates Market Street. It's also, the main lobby is also activated, activates Market Street, as that's where the main vestibule and entrance is. It's off of Market Street, all on the west. Access and parking to the site. There's one driveway on the southwest, which is right across from the Market Street entrance to the Civic Center. There are approximate supply and demand requirements for senior housing in the DTS MUPDD. That's half to 1 stall per unit, which would equate to 68 to 135 total stalls. This does not, however, include employees. And per the submitted info from the applicant, the number of employees is anticipated to be 20 at the start, with 1 RN on site 24/7. During regular business hours, there will be 20 employees. Up to 40 employees are anticipated at 90% occupancy of the facility. Parking is going to be via an underground garage and also surface space. In the underground garage, there are stalls striped for 85, on the surface, 21. Forgive me. There we go. The surface stalls are going to be kind of in the center of the property. You'll notice that here's the driveway off of Market Street. This is the drive going down into the underground parking, and then this is the surface parking in the center with a roundabout. That has recently been reviewed by the fire department. There may be some comments from Assistant Chief Kresick, and there might not be. As far as the number of stalls provided, as with other memory care facilities in the city, we've heard that memory care residents typically do not drive. So one can reasonably assume that 16 stalls for the 16 memory care units will not be required. Taking into consideration the total independent living units and 20 employees anticipated on site, at least initially, at least 33 units will not have a parking stall available to them. Now, this may or may not be a problem, but visitor parking in that scenario would then be relegated to the Market Street parallel parking. So even though the parking requirements are met per PUD standards, staff recognizes some of the senior independent living residents may not own a vehicle or drive. We would encourage the applicant to consider adding some extra on-site stalls, preferably in the garage, in order to reduce that perceived parking gap. Again, there's 106 total stalls, including surface and garage, and per the PUD, up to 135 would be in that range. Service areas, deliveries are going to be on the first floor on the west side. Trash receptacles are proposed to be stored within the garage. They will be wheeled out to a surface pad that is at the entrance to the garage on trash pickup day, and then will be wheeled back down. That trash pickup area is proposed to be screened with vegetation. At this time, no signage is proposed. If there are any signs that will be proposed, those will be reviewed at a later date. Parking lot lighting will be the cyclone fixture and pole that is required for residential development within the PUD. Updates for that are forthcoming. Landscaping is generally in conformance with the requirements for the DTS MUPDD. There are a few questions that are being worked through with the applicant at this time. So minor revisions may be required. One of those actually is with regard to the proposed landscaping along the shared pedestrian path with the hotel. That hotel landscape plan has been provided so that we have some coordination there. Getting into the building itself, there are recesses and projections throughout every portion of this building, which means that there is a lot of variation and depth to the building. It's not just a flat facade. There are also varying height parapets throughout the building. Again, this is a kind of a U-shaped building. The parapets are going to be holding the corners and the central portion of the west elevation. Also, the other corners, there will be smaller parapets and tower elements, but basically along the west side, you are going to see the most articulation. Primary exterior building materials, including mix of masonry, which is to be the ashlar pattern spec brick veneer, fiber cement lap siding, and fiber cement panel siding. We do have material samples up here if anybody has any questions about that. I'd be happy to answer them, or the applicant can also provide some information about that. On the elevations themselves, masonry appears to be maximized on the west. Wall sections on the north and south and at the base of the entire building also include masonry. Fiber cement lap siding and fiber cement panels are primarily seen on the northeast and south and courtyard elevations. Those are the primary materials. Again, masonry at the base. All proposed materials are acceptable primary building materials in the PUD. There is a condition, like we've had in previous applications, for the brick to be a minimum of 4 inches per the code. Significant glazing is on the west side, again facing Market Street. That's approximately 20% of the total wall area. On the north and courtyard elevations are the next to have the most glazing, 15.5 up to 23.5 roughly % of the wall area will have windows. Canvas awnings are above the street level windows on the west elevation and above the pub and restaurant and kitchen windows on the north elevation. Pre-finished metal canopies are over the lobby vestibules on the west, which are the street and courtyard, the east courtyard elevation, and over the vestibule on the south elevation. Apartments on the second through the fourth floors and some on the first floor will have pre-finished aluminum balconies. You'll see that in the elevations in your packets. Rooftop mechanicals are to be screened behind the proposed parapets. Any rooftop mechanical unit that is not fully screened by the parapets will be required to be screened with a material to be approved by the Department of Community Development. And as a reminder, all other building or ground-mounted mechanicals and transformers must be screened. We do see some of that screening proposed in the landscape plan for the ground. And this gives you an idea, an architectural rendering of what the proposed facility will look like. This is the northwest corner, looking south toward on Market Street. Staff comments have been provided to the applicant. There were some comments that were provided from the utility and from the engineering department. Revisions based on those comments are forthcoming, and the staff continues to be in contact with the applicant and their consultants to resolve the minor issues that are remaining. Staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site and building plan submitted by the Waters Senior Living for the property located at 8000 South Market Street, subject to conditions 1 through 10. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Assistant Chief Kresick is here. Do you have concerns on the access to that central area?
Mike Kresick, Fire Department. One of our initial comments based on the plans was the design of the drive-in and then the circular drive in front of the structure. And our initial concern was, can we get a fire apparatus through there effectively? We have been in contact with the developers. They have run calculations based on larger trucks to determine what the turning radiuses are. At this time, we don't have concerns that we won't be able to work out a solution with them.
Any other concerns on the building or the property?
Not at this time.
I do, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm concerned, or not concerned, but they've isolated the memory care unit, okay, which is obviously a good idea, and it's kind of isolated from the rest of the facility. And when I look at that, you'd be coming in, if you did, over in the main lobby, which is directly across. So I'm not talking so much about the fire situation, but more the EMTs, because as we know, any of these senior living units get more calls than normal. Okay, it's understandable. Do you see any problem with the limited access to that memory care unit because it's set off on the site?
I don't anticipate a significant amount of problems with access. What we find with the emergency medical responses is that there's one dedicated entrance to a variety of facilities. And that dedicated entrance allows us access to the entire structure, and that may take us to distant places also. We do have numerous assisted care facilities in the city, and we do find that there are separations that from the exterior would seem to be a little bit challenging. But we tend to work those out with a common access point and then routing with staff through the building.
I would assume that they would make some, how can I say it, calls ahead of time just to check the place out before it's all filled up, just to understand what they had to do if they got there.
Generally what we do is once the construction process starts, we do start a pre-planned process. The crews may get out there during the construction phase. As they get closer to the occupancy of the structure, when generally most of the construction is finished, our crews will do a walkthrough to kind of familiarize themselves with the building and anticipate where they may be responding, where there might be some tricky areas or where they might be going for patients predominantly. So we will be in that structure well before it opens to occupancy.
Mike, just one more thing before you go. You talked about the turning radius. When they do that, do they include like the average car parked in there? Because the way they lay these out, it looks pretty tight.
Sometimes not. And we've just preliminary started the discussion on what's going to fit through that drive. And I think we both agreed during the early discussions that there are things we can do to make that work without a significant layout change. It might be reducing the size of the inside decorative area. It may or may not require that, but certainly we'll run the calcs with them to make sure it accommodates our apparatus.
Mr.
I've
Seibert?
got a question about fire hydrants. Do we have adequate coverage, or do we have to add additional hydrants to cover the backside of that building?
Drexel Town Square has been challenging to the fire department, not necessarily in a negative way, but is a brand new development with limited existing water. The water supply is new in there. So we've been working with every developer to ensure that they meet the coverage requirements for the hydrants. And we'll work with them on their site plan and their underground design to make sure we have adequate coverage. And one of the first steps they got to look at is where the fire department connection will be for the fire suppression system. That kind of lays out your first hydrant. We'll then work with them to efficiently make sure that they've got coverage around the entire structure. They do, they're next to Myers, and there is significant coverage in that area, but we'll certainly work with them to ensure that they're meeting our ordinance and code for hydrant coverage.
Thank you.
Alderman Bekavich?
Done with you, Mike. Is the applicant up here? I want to discuss the dumpster location as well as the generator. I mean, we're sitting right on Market Street with a dumpster enclosure. So can you kind of weigh that out here?
And if I can make a clarification, the dumpster is not an enclosure that'll be above ground except for on trash pickup day. The dumpsters are proposed to be stored within the underground garage. On pickup day is when they'll be wheeled out to the pad for pickup, and then they'll be wheeled back into the garage once the pickup has occurred. But that pad itself has been proposed to be screened a little bit with landscaping to buffer that a bit.
Okay, let's get into the generator then. Will the generator sit underground too?
Correct, yes.
It will.
Yep.
Oh, man, you made this easy.
Yeah, and it's also, if you look, so that'll be driving down, so that'll actually
Okay.
be underground, so you won't even be able to see
Okay,
the
no, I've
garbage
seen the
bins and
depiction of
generator.
you're going under on it.
Okay.
All right, that pretty much satisfied me.
Commissioner Dickson?
Touche.
As long as you're there. On the first floor, it shows that there's a cafe and there's a restaurant, et cetera. Now, that's all for just the residents of that building?
It'll be. Sure. My name is Brian Shack. I'm a developer with the Waters. My address is 412 Clover Lane, Golden Valley, Minnesota.
Thank you.
The cafe, restaurant, and pub are designed to obviously serve our residents, but they're also, in this design, open to the public. So, for example, if any person is walking down the road and they want to stop into our community, we will have public access in that quadrant of the building. Now, the other access points through the main lobby and whatnot, those will be secured. However, we will have a concierge person on staff for about 12 hours a day.
Carrie, you mentioned landscaping on the segment that adjoins the Marriott property. Not the Marriott property? Yeah. And you made a comment that they're consulting with each other. Are they going to complement each other on both sides of that walkway, or?
Yes, if you'll notice in the plan that's on the screen right now, there's some plantings that are shown on the south side of the walkway. Unbeknownst to the applicant at the time, there is actually an approved landscape plan that was submitted by the hotel for that same area. So there will be coordination between the two to have to make sure that the landscape plans mesh and that nobody is proposing landscaping that doesn't need to be there.
Okay. On the rendering that you submitted in our packet, and I think it was on screen before, so is that a walkway on the top of that west face of the building? Or like an outdoor patio? Is that what that is?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And that will serve those units up there.
Okay. That'd be the penthouse?
Yes, they're larger units.
Nice. Yeah, the building looks great. I mean,
Yeah, we're very excited to break ground, so.
other questions?
Yeah, what would be the cost to rent an apartment at this facility?
We're still doing our market research. This is a new market for us. We're diving into the competition, calling around the competitors to get a better gauge on our pricing. But you could expect anywhere from $2,000 and up.
I have a question for Commissioner Johnson. Anything with retention ponds do we need? Or don't we need anything to control the runoff?
We don't need anything with this development. That was all taken into account with the overall site development. We have ponds and stormwater control already in place. This meets the size restrictions for the lot, so we don't need any additional or stormwater controls.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We'll go to Commissioner Johnson, then Commissioner Dickman.
As we're talking about the path and the sidewalks there, just point out too, when you're working with the hotel group to the north, we'll also need easements to connect that sidewalk to that public path.
Okay, noted.
Commissioner Dickman?
As with any senior type living, usually there's some availability of a small shuttle service or something like that to take the people around. Now, this is a great location, obviously, because of the city hall and the library and being able to shop at Myers and keep going on and on. But there are other places where the people might want to go, like to the Marcus Theater or to the community center that we have. They will be providing some small bus service here, or what's goes on?
Yeah, we currently own 10 communities, and each of our communities in the Twin Cities both have either vans or a larger shuttle, depending on the size of the community. So a lot of our amenities are in-house, but we offer many services such as, bringing them to the grocery store, bring them to the different medical clinics, to the dentist and whatnot. So we try to provide as much access to everything outside of the development as possible.
Well, I said, the location of this is for seniors is really great. When you look at it, because you got the medical facility, Freighter, you got the, like I said, shopping, you got the city hall, library, etc. So from that standpoint, I don't think there'll be as much having to take people around, but I'm sure they still want to, or maybe they want to do something different, like visit the casino or something like that.
Absolutely, and that was one of our largest desires to come here, the connectivity with all the surrounding buildings. So.
Okay, thank you.
You had something, Doug? Come on up.
Doug Seymour, Director of Community Development. Just wanted to take the opportunity to let the commission know that myself, as well as former City Administrator Jerry Peterson, had the opportunity to visit 2 or 3 of their facilities in the Twin Cities. And personally, I will attest that, the facilities were very well run, very attractive. I had a chance to talk with several of the residents. I just got a really good sense that this is a quality operation, quality group. I think in dealing with them and with the plans that they've brought before you, you can tell that they're really committed to this community. And I don't believe this will be your last community in the Milwaukee area, hopefully. And we'll be doing some other things. So you should feel comfortable that this is a quality group, builds a quality product, and it seems like their residents are genuinely happy in that situation, and I'm happy they're here, and I think they'll be great neighbors for the Civic Center.
Okay, Commissioner Chandler.
Question for the applicant. So where are the entrances on this building?
Could you turn to the so we actually have, I guess you could say, 4 ways to access the community. On the top of your screen, that will be the direct access across the city entrance over here. That will be open to the public along with the one right below it, and that will be more of the access from the turnaround circle, you could say. And again, those are secured 24/7, and to get in, you either have to be a resident with a fob, or you have to be let in by someone, or the concierge person who's staffed 12 hours a day can let you in. For the memory care, it's going to be on the direct opposite side of our community. And again, that's going to be the same situation. We won't have a concierge person staffed there, but however, we will have a nursing station right there to let in any outside guests into that area. But again, it's secured 24/7. And then the third or the fourth access point.
Before you continue, area.
So it's on the corner on the left side. And then the other access point would be at the Cafe Pub Restaurant, which would be in the northwest corner of the community.
Okay, got it. And the reason I asked that, because I noticed on the parking, you had some ADA parking in the lower right-hand corner, but I didn't know if that had an entrance or not. So I just wanted to inquire about that parking.
Yeah, those stalls are actually located close to the memory care entrance. And as
So there's another entrance that we didn't go over?
yeah, the memory care entrance, which is right, if you actually move your
Maybe I'm looking at this differently.
On the
Okay,
screen.
on
It's on the
SD
screen
120. Yep, yeah. So down here, I didn't think that was an entrance.
You gotta speak on the mic.
Okay, oh, please.
sorry, yeah, that was for the underground parking.
Okay.
I'm just trying to locate them. So if you look here, may I write on this? So here's going to be the entrance for the memory care, and then here were those two handicap stalls, and then here is the main entrance. So if you park in the interior circle, you could enter it from here or here, and then from outside, you can access it here or in this corner. And then we'll also have a service store.
I understand, thank you.
Not that it's relevant, but is the restaurant and the cafe two different things, or?
Different that they're next to each other. They will be serving the same food. One's for more of that pub style setting, and the other's more for a little private, more intimate. So there will be a wall, but you will be able to access the restaurant through two doors or two openings. So it's just another option to give our residents a different dining option.
And which one has, it looks like something has outdoor dining?
Yeah, so both areas on the outside of this will have an outdoor patio, which will include seating if you wanted to grab a bite to eat and move out onto our patio.
Okay. And if you know what kind of menus are they going to offer, any of that?
Yeah,
you don't really need to know that, but I'm just curious.
And Doug can attest to this, but
it's all about food with me, apparently.
we pride ourselves in the food, so we actually hire a third party to help consult and run our restaurant. Our head cooks actually change the menu up constantly. I believe it's monthly, and they set each meal by the week. We actually do something cool where once a month you can sit down and have, they call it breakfast or coffee with the cook, where residents can interact with the cook and give input to the menu, to changing certain things. So it's all about options for our residents.
Sounds fun.
You'll have to go try it out. The food is great.
I might be living in there at some point. Any other questions or comments? Alderman Guzikowski.
Just had a question on the surface parking, with the bistro being possibly open to the public, if you will. My concern is parking around Drexel Town Square. Are we going to have enough parking, surface lot parking at the waters here for overflow parking? Or if you have overflow parking with gas, is where I'm going.
Yeah, so you could see the calculations that Carrie mentioned. Typically what we see is our residents, about 50% of them end up actually parking at our community. Now, we tend to build more just in case that number jumps up. But, for us, it seems that this is a comfortable number that we believe that will work for us. At some point, when this thing's fully operable, hopefully we'll have 30 to 40 full-time or employees. However, at the most we'll have 20 on site. So I'll go back and talk with our VP of construction about possibly entertaining the idea to extend the underground parking further. But we believe right now that at the 106 stalls, it'll be comfortable enough for us to operate what we'd like to.
Given your history at the other, what'd you say, 10 other places you have this? Does this seem adequate?
Yes.
Anybody else? Motion on 5B.
David will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the site and building plans submitted by the Water Senior Living for the property located at 8,000 South Market Street with the following conditions. 1, that all building and fire codes are met. 2, that a copy of any agreement regarding shared landscape, snow storage, etc. with Myers is provided to the Department of Community Development prior to the issuance of building permits. Do you want to include the landscape plan along with the hotel?
The requirement for an easement for connection to the pedestrian path, that was my mistake. I thought that was already in place. You can add it as an additional connection or condition of approval.
Okay. Also, a condition of number 2, we'd like to have a condition of agreement with
Easement agreement for connection to the pedestrian path.
as Carrie stated. 3, that dumpsters, trash receptacles be located in the garage, except for the trash pickup days. Once emptied, the dumpsters, trash receptacles must be returned to the garage. 4, that any proposed signs are reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission prior to submission of permit applications. 5, that the final photometric and lighting plans indicating the approved luminaire type, pole type, color, and height for Drexel Town Square is submitted for final approval by the Director of Community Development upon written recommendation of the electrical inspector prior to the issuance of building permits. 6, that all revised plans, site, building, landscape, etc. are submitted in digital and paper formats for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications. 7, that the exterior brick veneer meet the minimum 4-inch thick requirement per code. 8, that all mechanical equipment and transformers, ground, building, and rooftop are screened from view. 9, that the plans addressing grading, draining, stormwater quality, including the use of stormwater best management practices, be approved by the city engineer prior to the issuance of building permits. And 10, that all water and sewer utility connections are coordinated with the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility.
Guzekowski, I'll second.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
David Chai.
Guzekowski, aye. Rolla.
Seifert, aye.
Thank you. Go forward. All right, item C is a plan review, a site and landscaping plan submitted by Russell Legg, Aurora Healthcare, for a parking lot expansion on the properties at 9444 and 9454 South Howell Avenue and 200 and 228 East Ryan Road. Tax key numbers as listed. Carrie.
And commissioners will recall that the areas highlighted in red on your screen were recently reviewed for a certified survey map combining the properties. And as a reminder, the buildings that are on Howell Avenue will be removed in favor of some site modifications, which include expanded parking, added signage, and landscaping for the site, which will become an Aurora clinic. The parking will be expanded to 220 stalls per code, 5 patron spaces per doctor, plus 1 stall per employee during the peak shift is required. Per information supplied by the applicant, approximately 8 physicians and 30 caregivers are anticipated at the new clinic at various times within the proposed hours of operation, which will be between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. for various operations. They are anticipating at this point a maximum of 5 small deliveries per day. Based on this, it appears that the parking stall requirements are met with the proposal, and also setbacks appear to be met. Access is controlled by the DOT. There is a condition of approval for any approvals to be provided to the city with regard to access. With regard to mechanicals, even though this is an existing building and there will be exterior and interior upgrades, as far as the exterior is concerned, that's mainly maintenance requirements, paint, a little bit of repair, nothing new at this point. However, due to the proposed use for a clinic, it necessitates some mechanical units. Those mechanical units must be screened, and staff is currently working with the applicant's consultant to ensure that those are adequately screened. There is a proposal for a dumpster to be located in an enclosure that is off of this corner of the building. That's the northeast corner. The dumpster will be sided and, there we go, CMU side, and also some metal gates. There will also be a 6-foot tall wood fence to replace what's existing. That's actually along the perimeter, so it'll be kind of following the dashed line that you see here as it goes around the north side parking, access, building, and then wraps around the east side parking. As for the signs, we have 3 directional signs that are proposed, 2 monument signs. We don't currently have details for the directional signs. However, they are limited within the code to a height of 5 feet above grade and a maximum of 6 square feet per side. One design was submitted for the monument sign. We are waiting for additional details on that. However, it does appear that it exceeds the maximum height. There's some side setback concerns for the proposed sign on Ryan Road. We need to make sure that they are outside of required vision triangles. And electronic message boards, if they are going to be included as part of the sign design, are limited to a maximum of 50 square feet. Staff continues to work with the applicant and their consultants on these issues. As proposed right now, it does look like the sign exceeds the height and possibly square footage, but again, we will ensure that those concerns are addressed. We also have submitted landscape plans. We are working with the applicant's consultants to address any concerns that we have. We do need a little bit more information in order to complete a staff review. That information is forthcoming. Utility comments have also been provided to the consultants and will be included in any revisions. With that, the staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the site plan submitted by Russell Legg of Aurora Healthcare for the properties at 200 and 228 East Ryan Road and 9444 and 9454 South Howell Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 8. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Probably not a site in the city that doesn't get asked about more than this site. What's going to happen there? When's it going to happen? So to me, this is great news, great partner. You always bring a full squad when you show up at our meetings. Appreciate it. I should make you all speak. Yeah, I think this is a huge win for the city. Obviously, a great company, Aurora, and a good service to the residents that live here. So, question, Commissioner Chandler.
I have a question for the applicant or applicants.
What's the subject, and they'll decide who gets to talk.
Signage. I'll start with signage.
Signage. Yeah, name and address for the record.
Pardon me?
Name and address for the record.
Russ Legg, 2180 Hall Road, town of Erin.
Can you provide us a little more information about the signage? We didn't have any details in our packets.
No, we don't.
Just the height of the monument sign, no details.
We don't have the exact details on that right now. We have a standard that we use with Aurora, and we're working with Plabaki Signs right now to finish up the details on that.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be submitting that as a separate.
Oh, okay. So, Carrie, they would come back to us for the sign?
Right, with the detail on it.
It depends, actually. If there's a variance required, then they would come back. If they meet the code, then they would just need permits.
Okay. So is it per code, the directional signs and the monument sign, excluding the height?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So there were certain requirements you identified that they must meet.
Yes, so that's directly from code.
So they can have directional signs?
Yes, directional signs are permitted.
Okay.
Those directional signs are limited in terms of height and size. And the locations appear to be okay. They appear to be outside of vision triangles. The 2 main monument signs are also limited by height, square footage, and location. So those are the details that we'll be working out with the applicant once they finalize their plans.
Okay. Thank you. And now I have a question about the entrances or access from Howell and Ryan Road.
Everybody that comes up, name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. Tom Olenichek, 255 North 21st Street.
So with access to Howell and Ryan, so what would change?
Well, right now, actually, we're working with the DOT. There are two existing access points on Howell to the properties that are out there. The DOT has requested that those two access points go away. The new access point that you see on Howell, north of this, it would be the new one. And then on Ryan, there's an existing access point, which is essentially in the taper lane of Ryan Road, and the DOT has requested that that be relocated. So we've worked with them to shift that access point to where you see it now. So it essentially shifts it probably 100, 150 to 200 feet or so to the east.
So the Ryan Road access shifts, and the
As does the
Howell
Howell.
access, that also shifts.
Yeah.
The two go away, but a new one.
The DOT
Okay.
wants to move those access points as far away from the intersection as possible.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Safety.
The movements stay the same, but the access points shift.
So it has been approved that these accesses are okay.
Verbally, yes. We're going through the formal permitting process right now.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
You're welcome. Other questions? Commissioner Dickman?
On the west side of the property along Howe Avenue, and maybe Kerry, you could kind of point out how much landscaping there'll be there. I understand that driving on Howe, you're going to see the building, obviously, because of the height. But with the amount of parking there, is there anything that'll kind of do some screening of the parking along there?
They do show some screening along Howell Avenue. There are some trees and bushes and things like that proposed, but those are some of the details that we're looking for. We do have a chart that shows the species, but we're looking for some more details so that we can adequately determine whether or not the proposed landscaping meets code.
Well, then, we talked about signage, and I noticed one of your comments for staff recommendations is that all revised plans would be just submitted for review and approval by, your department. And I'm just wondering whether they should come back to the planning commission, because we got signage, we got landscaping, et cetera. Maybe there's more things.
Well, typically signage is not approved by the Plan Commission unless there's an appeal, except for Drexel Town Square, because that's a unique situation. It's required by the PUD that the Plan Commission reviews all signs. Typically in the city, the code does not require that the Plan Commission reviews all signs, again, unless there's a variance request. As far as the landscaping is concerned, what we're waiting for is just really detail. It appears to meet most of the requirements of code, but we need some more detail just to ensure that. Typically, staff will work with the applicant following Plan Commission review and approval and have that designated to our department. If the Plan Commission doesn't want to go that way, if you want to see the landscape plan come back, you are authorized. You have the authority to do so.
I feel comfortable that you're going to be looking at it, but I thought there might be something with the signs and everything. So I don't have a problem, if it's not that major.
No, typically signage is reviewed and, compared to the code, unless, of course, it's a multi-tenant building or it's within Drexel Town Square, or there's a sign appeal.
Looking at the landscaping that's on the screen, I think it's on your screen, it looks fairly adequate. Actually, it looks like it's going to screen it a lot, so I don't see any hesitation, why we would hesitate to move it forward. Yeah, I don't know what species they're going to put in, but
And that's the question.
I always look at what's there now and what it's going to look like with enhanced, whatever the new use is, and this is a tremendous use. I can cite lots of examples of old buildings that have no landscaping. When a company comes in, a company like Aurora, it's going to redevelop that entire site, clean up an ugly corner of the city, do the kind of landscaping that it looks like you're going to do, I have no problem letting staff handle the details. You want palm trees? You can make that work. Figure that out.
Not sure the city forester would say that those are native to
probably fight
Wisconsin.
you. Other questions? Alderman Bakavich.
Really, this kind of pertains to Commissioner Johnston. Just want to touch on stormwater. I'm sure they're working on it, but you're adding a lot of impervious pavement here. What's the plan going forward?
They'll have to do a new stormwater management plan for the facility and incorporate all their new pavement into a stormwater plan. Phil Beermeister's working with them in the department.
Okay. And then I guess just one more thing for Assistant Chief Kresick. I know it's an existing building. They probably got to bring it up to code for what you need, but any hydrant issues that have to be moved with those two buildings being raised?
Mike Kresick Fire Department, they've been very flexible with us in working through this project, and they are aware of the existing structure and that the code requirements that will come into play. There was one particular hydrant that came into question with this. We've worked with the applicants, and we feel we have a solution to solve that issue.
Excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Carrillo.
I think you mentioned it in your briefing. What exists between the homes that are on that path and what will it change to?
So actually, the landscape plan might be the best way to address your question, Dawn. There is already a fence that provides some privacy and some separation between the existing residences to the north and the property here. What's being proposed, and actually I should mention that there is a required buffer area, which is why you see that setback. What's being proposed is a 6-foot-tall wood fence to be facing the existing residences to the north, but there will also be some landscaping. That landscaping is on either side of the fence. So the fence, it's a little bit hard to see, but the fence kind of starts about here, and it follows kind of the curvature of the drive-in and then crosses in front of the parking to the north, and then follows around. There's some generators and some utilities over here. It'll screen that, but as you can see, there's a drift. There's a landscape drift here. The fence continues along, kind of following the pavement and screening the building, and there's another landscape drift. And then if we follow that around to the northeast corner, kind of follows and screens the parking, goes around the parking to the east, and then it will end right here, which is right at the end of the parking on the east side.
And something exists now?
Yes, there is an existing fence there.
And that will be taken down?
Yes, this will replace it.
So
I'm not sure that the existing fence is this extensive. My guess is that it isn't, but this is what will be proposed.
Is it the existing one more at their lot line?
I don't think so. It might be a little bit closer in some spots, but this is meeting the buffer requirements.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion on 5C.
Dickman makes a motion, the Plan Commission approve the site plans submitted by Russell Lake of Aurora Healthcare for the properties at 200 and 228 East Ryan Road and 9444, 9454 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. Number 1, that all building and fire codes are met. 2, that the applicant provide all required reviews and approvals from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the proposed access drives to the Department of Community Development and the Engineering Department prior to the submission of permit applications. Number 3, that all mechanical equipment, whether it's ground, building, or rooftop, is screened from view. Number 4, that all proposed sign plans are revised to meet all requirements of section 17.0706, 170711, and 170714. Number 5, that all revised plans, site, landscaping, signage, etc., are submitted in digital and paper formats for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications. 6, that final lighting plans indicating luminaire type, pole type, color, and height are submitted for final approval by the Department of Community Development on written recommendation of the electrical inspector prior to submission of building permit applications. Number 7, that stormwater and grading plans are submitted for final approval by the Engineering Department prior to the issuance of permits. And number 8, that all water and sewer utility connections are coordinated with the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Grillo, aye.
David, aye.
Scooty, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Crowell, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Moving on to 5D, it's a preliminary plat review for a subdivision plat submitted by Michael Carrick of Carrick Homes, Inc. for the proposed Carrollville Crossing Addition number 1 subdivision. Thank you, folks. Located at 8781 South 5th Avenue, tax key number 865-0114. Gary or Pete? Gary?
This is for an addition to the existing Carrollville Crossing subdivision. It is for an 8-lot residential subdivision. zoom in here so you can get a better idea of what we're talking about. There are two outlots that are existing currently, one providing the stormwater infrastructure for the subdivision, and also an outlot 1, which is going to be reserved for park purposes. It currently is reserved for park. The residential lots range in size from about 1/3 of an acre to about 2/3 of an acre along East Cooper Court and South 6th Street. Outlot 1 is just over 5 acres, about 5.28 acres. There are no changes proposed to the existing tree preservation easements that are in the area. Engineering and water and sewer utility comments have been provided to the applicant. Those include such things as having to drill underneath the road to provide laterals to the proposed site. Also, the existing stormwater infrastructure does need a little bit of maintenance, and that was one of the comments that was provided by the engineering department. You'll note that the incorrect district information, zoning district information, is included on the plat. I did have a conversation with the applicant and their consultant. They are both aware, and the proposal does meet the requirements of the RS4 district, which is correct. So that is a minor correction that will be needed on the preliminary plat moving forward. But again, district requirements appear to be met in the proposal. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission approves the preliminary plat for the Carrollville Crossings Edition Number 1 submitted by Michael Carrick of Carrick Homes for the property at 8781 South 5th Avenue, with the condition that all staff and utility comments are incorporated as required. Mr. Mayor.
Interesting that this came up tonight because I had a conversation this afternoon about the lack of single-family home lots in the city. So these are going to start being more, I would think it would be more relevant to the discussion of what happens in the city. So looks like Carrick's certainly not unfamiliar with the city of Oak Creek. They've done quite a bit of development here. It looks like a good addition to that subdivision. I would say you probably are in one of the best positions given what's going to happen out on the lakefront in the next 10 years or so. So I think it's a good development. Questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner Chandler. Applicant is here. Name and address for the record.
Mike Carrick Homes, 11600 West Lincoln Avenue, West Dallas.
Commissioner Chandler, I'm not sure your mic is on.
There we go. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you better.
Okay. Okay. Can you provide feedback on the request to install or replace the laterals? Is that correct? To install them.
Originally, this was going to be a multifamily property. I think there was going to be up to 40 units. And back during the recession, 2008, 2009, I was going to do condos. And the neighbors in the subdivision that we built for requested to go back to single-family homes. So there were no laterals put in. I think there might be 1 or 2 laterals in. But we knew we'd have to put the laterals in to do single family.
Okay. So that is not an issue?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Motion. Oh, got a question?
Just real
Alderman
quick.
Kavich.
The water detention pond, it's in pretty sad shape. Does that fall under you helping fix that up?
We're gonna help fix that up. Yes.
You are. So it's a win-win for the neighborhood and as well as us getting some.
Correct.
Woohoo!
And just for the record, too, we plan to build all the homes, so they'll be equal to or better than the homes that we've put up there before. So,
what's the size of the homes?
I'll quite remember.
If you know.
I think the minimum out there was like 1,400 square foot ranches and probably 2,000 or 1,800 square foot 2 stories. Most of the homes that we build today are more in the 1,800 square foot ranches and 2,500 square foot 2 stories. Okay. These lots are actually very large too for Oak Creek, for this area of Oak Creek. So, and these lots are actually, I think, bigger than all the original 52. So probably you'll have bigger homes.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you manage to get the utilities in place, electrical, all that, before the recession hit, or you got to get that?
We have, obviously the gas is in the road, so that won't be a problem. But the electric, we will have to work with the electric company to get them installed.
Anybody else? Motion.
Corral moves the commission approves the preliminary plat for the Caraville Crossings Edition Number 1 submitted by Michael Carrick Holmes for the property at 8781 South Fifth Avenue with the condition that all staff and utility comments are incorporated as required.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
David Chai.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Moving on to item 5E. It's a review of a site building, landscaping, and lighting plan submitted by Terry Martinez, JTP Properties LLC, for an addition to the existing building at 7373 South 6th Street, tax key number 764-9031. Pete.
Yeah, it's my turn.
I wonder why you were here.
I have to show up once in a while. As you stated, the applicant is requesting a building plan approval for a 3,200 square foot addition to the existing building located at 7373 South 6th Street. The proposed addition will match the existing building materials, consisting of metal roof panel system and corrugated metal wall panels. It will also match the colors as well as the height. As part of this plan, the parking lot has been reconfigured to address the loss of parking stalls due to the extension. I'll bring up the site plan. The area shaded in gray is where the proposed addition is going to be located. Currently, there is parking that is back there, and as a result of the expansion, it's going to have to be relocated over to the northwest corner of the parcel. This addition does meet all the setback requirements for the M1 district. As I mentioned before about the exterior materials, that it will be made out of metal wall and panels, and as well as metal roof panels. This doesn't match the existing exterior of the building. However, we do have in the M1 district, as we mentioned many times before, about the 75% brick, glass, or acceptable masonry material is required as part of the M1 district buildings. However, the commission does have the authority to waive that requirement with a 3/4 approval of the Plan Commission. Even adding on to this building, the green space requirement is met. As you know, there's a 30% minimum green space requirement. Even with the addition, the site will still have 34% green space and be in compliance with code. As I mentioned about the parking lot earlier, it has been reconfigured by relocating the lots to that northwest side of the parcel. They still have the original number of parking stalls on site. Even though they are adding 3,200 square feet of warehouse, by code, you have to have a parking stall per 5,000 square feet, so there's no reason for addition there, and they do not anticipate any additional employers, which would also be a reason to add additional parking stalls. So they do meet the parking requirements as stated in the code. The one thing to point out to you is that they do have a slab between the two doors, and you follow my cursor here. That's where they have a slab for the garbage dumpsters. Right now there is no screening. Staff does recommend that as part of code that there's some screening be added to the site to screen that from the right-of-way. Lastly, back in 2011, there was an addition made to this building before. And as part of the conditions of approval, they talked about a temporary storage of materials and vehicles behind the building in the fenced-in area. Because of the expansion, it actually will take away what was once parking in the fenced-in area and eliminate that, so they won't have a place to store equipment and materials. So staff is recommending including as part of the conditions and restrictions or conditions of approval that outdoor storage of equipment and materials be prohibited at this site. Having said that, staff recommends, big flourish here, that the Plan Commission approves the building plan submitted by A1 Services Incorporated for the property at 7373 South 6th Street with conditions 1 through 3.
Questions or comments? Mr. Chandler?
I have a question for the applicant.
Name and address for the record.
Terry Martinez, 207 63rd Drive, Union Grove.
My first question, what's the purpose for the addition?
Business growth. We need business growth.
Any additional employees?
Not at this time. Okay. Hopefully in the future.
And now that your outside storage area is taken away, will items go in this location?
Yes, we weren't storing hardly anything outside. So this will more than, we barely stored anything outside anyways.
And then my final question in regards to the screening of the dumpsters, can you provide some feedback on that concept?
Yes, we will get them screened. I don't have any detail on that right now, but it will be screened.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Motion.
Seifert moves that the Plan Commission approves a building plan submitted by A1 Services, Inc. for the property at 7373 South 6th Street with the conditions: 1, that all building and fire codes are met; 2, that all garbage dumpsters be screened from public right-of-way; 3, temporary outdoor storage of equipment and vehicles is prohibited.
Corral seconds.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Bill, aye.
David, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Corral, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item 5F is good luck. Item 5F is a plan review of site and building plans submitted by Neil Borkin, Arbor Restaurant Group, for exterior modification to the existing building at 8261 South Howell Avenue, tax number 813-9017.
This is part of exterior modifications that are going to be going along with interior modifications to the existing Taco Bell facility, which is on the corner of Howell and West Forest Hill Avenue. What's on your screen right now are the existing elevations for the building. So some of the things that are going to be changed, mostly, we have replacing the light fixtures. The awnings will be kept for the most part, and the walk-in cooler will be painted. Those are all modifications to the north facade. On the east, we are going to see some of the most changes. And what we're talking about on the east is this facade here, which faces Howell Avenue. The proposal is to remove some elements and add a tower element. So let me zoom into the proposed elevation for you. This is what's proposed. New tower element showing a light beige ephes section with metal panels. Bricks will be reclaimed from the demolition on other sides of the building and used on the bottom 4.5 feet of the tower legs. The existing flying arch, which is the little flourish that's on the northeast portion of the building now, will be removed. There's a corresponding one on the back of the building that will also be removed. There's an arched parapet on the southeast that will be removed, and that's replaced with a flat parapet. The existing recessed brick arch element will be infilled with matching brick. The existing light fixtures will be removed. There is only one new fixture proposed on the east elevation. We do recommend adding an additional light fixture, excuse me, on the tower legs and also on the other side of the window for some additional lighting, for some architectural element, and for some symmetry. New metal awnings are proposed to match the existing awnings above the windows. There's a new metal canopy centered over the door in the proposed tower. There is also an LED strip that's proposed in the tower element to kind of surround that background area where the new, well, it's not new, they're reclaiming the existing signage there and they're moving it. We'll talk about that in a moment. There is metal panel backing behind the Bell logo. On the south and west, again, talking about very minor changes, replacing the light fixtures, changing the canopies where needed, or keeping the ones where they don't need to be replaced. The drive-through window and transom will be replaced by additional drive-through window and transom windows to match the existing. Walk-in cooler, again, is going to be painted on all sides, and the flying arches will be removed. No changes to the site itself or landscaping are proposed at this time. It is assumed and expected that the original landscape plan approved in 2005 will be maintained. As far as the ephes and metal panels that are proposed on the east to comprise the tower element, excluding the north entry, the storefront portion, which is right where my cursor is here on the north side of the building, there's about 26.7% that'll be constructed with ephes and metal. So that's for the tower element here. Per code, accent materials, including EIFS and metal, are allowed as a maximum of 25% of the visible perimeter. While that does extend around the northeast and south sides of the building, the proposed tower element will be the focal point of the east elevation. Currently, the entire building is brick and glass, and the tower would be removing brick in favor of these secondary building materials. So it would be up to the Plan Commission to determine whether the substitution is acceptable. However, staff recommends maintaining the existing brick or utilizing a decorative stone as seen on other Taco Bell remodels rather than EIFS as the primary building material on the tower element. As far as the proposed LED lights that are in the recessed portion around the metal panel and logo, no details have been provided, so staff can't locate a comparable site to show you what that would look like. Based on the previous discussion the Plan Commission has had regarding these LED strip lights and the regulation of these lights, considering the proposal for these on this particular building as exterior accent lighting and not window lighting, staff recommends against approval for these lights and encourages the applicant to utilize sconces or recessed fixtures instead. The existing signage on the building will be reused. It'll just be on a different location, and I do have an updated rendering for you. The previous rendering included in your packets was from a similar site but did not show the correct building materials. This is what is being proposed for this particular location. We will be seeing the existing brick remain and also use some of the reclaimed brick on other sides of the building for infill. The EIFS is the tower element, the light beige portion, and then the metal panel is actually what looks kind of like a wood grain behind the logo. Again, that interior portion, that recessed area where the logo is around the metal panel is where the proposed LED strip lighting would be if approved. Staff's recommendation is that the Plan Commission approve the building plans submitted by Neil Borkin of Arbor Restaurant Group for the property at 8261 South Howell Avenue, subject to conditions 1 through 5. Mr. Mayor.
A new and improved Taco Bell. Okay. Is this this elevation you're showing on screen, is that from Howell Avenue?
Yes, this is the east elevation, which would be seen from Howell.
Okay. As far as the landscaping goes, it's actually got very nice landscaping on that corner, so hope it stays intact. Questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I have a question for the applicant.
Come on up. Name and address for the record.
Thought I'd bring this.
Make sure you jump back on the mic.
Evening. My name is Mario Valentini. I'm with MRV Architects. I'm here on behalf of Neil Borkin and Arbor Restaurant Group. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this to your attention and just kind of go through some of the details. A little bit of history might help kind of describe what's going on here and why we're doing it. This project has, or this location has recently been purchased by the restaurant group. As a part of the franchise agreement for the purchase, they're required, I think we're 10 years now, they're required to make a remodel of not only the inside, but you can see the outside. Exterior of the building now is trying to mimic some of the detailings of a new prototype that Taco Bell has nationally. So some of the buildings that you'll have maybe locally might be the previous prototype. So items such as decorative stone, the flying arch, all those items are kind of dated back to a previous prototype, which they called the Liv Moss prototype. We're now moving into something called the Explorer prototype. The Explorer prototype uses, as you can see in this case, a little more of the hard lines. Okay, they're using that. They're using some different materials that you wouldn't normally find on a Taco Bell because they're trying to kind of retroactively go back to some of the materials that were used in the past. They use a mimic aged wood in that prototype. It's not this. They use that rust wall. That's what you're seeing behind the bell. It's an actual metal panel that is made to rust. Now, I have a sample of it here. It's such a new material that literally there's only, I think, maybe 15 locations nationally that have used this material so far. I was able to get a piece, which was good. You can see a portion of it is starting to rust. So it gives, after 2-3 weeks, you get what starts to look like that material right there. But it really starts out as this kind of a little more finished product, but it's meant to age, rust, and then that rust stays intact. There's a coating on there that after a short period of time, it rusts, but then doesn't continue to rust through like you see in a old car, right? Rusting through is not good. Rusting color is what they're after. So as a part of the franchise agreement, they are obviously having to do some of this. This gets them, basically you're buying term, right? You're buying 15, 20, 25, I don't know what it is exactly, but you're buying term so that they don't have to come back later and basically redo the building again. It's a great building. One of the reasons why they're doing this tower change is because, believe it or not, in 2005, that building was meant for 2 brands. Back in the day, Yum Brands, parent company to Taco Bell, wanted to probably put a Long John Silver or an A&W Root Beer in that building, which they don't hold it. Yeah, it may have been, was it there before? I don't even know, sorry. Oh, was it? Okay, so as you can see at the time, that building was meant for 2 towers, 2 brands, and now after that brand has been removed, you literally have an elevation that is kind of bland and nondescript of knowing what kind of building this is. So we're trying to have this small element that has now become the Taco Bell national piece. I do understand it exceeds some of the percentages that Oak Creek has in their ordinance, but when you look at the percentage of this compared to the entire building, just trying to get that little bit of element in this building, we're unfortunately putting it on the short side as opposed to the long side of the building, which probably wouldn't be as much of a concern. So we're looking hopefully for some comments that you may have, but obviously the intent there is to just kind of have some small element and piece of architecture that's going to be following with new buildings as they build them, not only locally but nationally. And as far as the LED is concerned, yes, there's a LED strip lighting, pretty low-level lighting that goes around the perimeter and actually reflects off the rust wall. It's a blue light. Again, when you look at the full-scale building or a remodel that would have a lot more material, you'd normally find that blue light. I should have brought a rendering of it. I apologize for not having it, but the new building has the slat wall, and behind the slat wall is the blue light, and it reflects off the back of the building, and you see the light through the slats. So again, we're not doing all the slat wall here. We're not changing a lot of that, but they're trying to incorporate the blue lighting around the perimeter of the bell.
So is there a way to do it without making it a LED light strip?
I don't think something has been put in place, but it doesn't mean that we can't try. The problem, I think, is that the LED light provides a uniform light as opposed to spots which would have hot, pockets of lighting, and it just kind of throws off the thought process.
We discussed the LED strip lighting. There's people taking that strip lighting, that rope lighting, and they're putting it within their windows. And when I was reading this, what I was proposing is you were putting it around the sign. Is that what we were thinking? If it's behind that material you showed us and it's backlit and it's just doing something there.
It literally is what it's doing. It's around the perimeter of the rust wall. On the top, on the sides and the top.
You'll never literally see it. All you'll see is the wash.
Correct.
That's your understanding?
Staff didn't have details for that, so that's why we brought it to your attention. And typically, what we've heard from Plan Commission based on these lights is that you don't want to see them. Now, understanding more about what the proposal is, still probably want to get an idea of what that really looks like. But if it's less of a concern to the Plan Commission, it might be less of a concern to staff. We just don't want to see those LED strip lights that we've been showing you, that we've been trying to get the code to address.
I guess
a shield, typically a shield is provided that the front face of the LED light is shielded.
It reflects off.
And then it reflects off the back of the rust wall.
And again, I agree totally with Carrie.
So
we don't want them things shown, but I do think we need more detail as to what you're going to shoot for.
So thank you for providing these. I appreciate that. There's the top, the evening photo where you see the slat walls and you see that kind of bluish purple light behind the slat walls. That's the intent.
All right, so you can see the lights, but not the actual light strip.
It's very much like having lights in a soffit, and they shine up. You never see the lights. You see the wash.
Correct. So unfortunately, the main page there with the decorative stone is what they're moving away from. Right. They're not using the stone. They're using, actually in the new prototype, which isn't here yet or seen here, that stone, they're proposing to do that rust wall, the whole vertical face of the tower. Remains to be seen how that kind of works out. I kind of like more the idea of using it as an accent, a little accent piece, and in the kind of recess of the tower element. But that image up at the top, the evening one with the bell and it used to be a purple. They called it the shimmer panel. It's now the rust wall panel.
All right, so you're going to have to work with staff to make sure that the light strip itself is not visible, and the light wash, or whatever, however you described it, is what we're actually seeing.
Yeah.
Some of these now are so bright. That's what we don't want to see.
Right.
Anybody else? There
you go. Commissioner Dickman.
Pat, you've been around a lot of the restaurants. Have you seen anything like this affect at all?
Completely different application than what we don't want. We're going to see more of it, or more franchisors want to see it, so I get it. I don't have a problem with it. I can't really tell you that I see it somewhere else. Creek right now used that way. But Dan described it perfectly. What you thought is what you get.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Commissioner Chandler?
So to continue on with the lighting, so the bell will also be lit, and Taco Bell?
Yeah, it's the same signage being relocated to the location as shown.
All my other questions were answered. Thank you.
Could we, Carrie, item 2 says it's not approved. Could we reword that somehow to allow you to work with them to make sure it comes out looking like?
Work with staff for consideration about LED treatment around whatever that's called.
Yeah.
How about that, that we strike number 2 and include in the revised plans that lighting is submitted for our approval?
Oh, okay, add lighting to the words building. Okay, that's good, yeah.
Anyone else? I think we got all our questions answered.
Looks good.
Makes me want to have tacos and Taco Bell. Motion.
Okay, which will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve.
Hold on.
I have one question, and that's regarding the use of EFS on the tower element. I would just like the Plan Commission position on whether or not that should be something other than EFS.
At least in the renderings, I feel it does break it up. I didn't have big concerns with it, but that's just me.
There's enough brick in the building. I don't have any heartburn with that amount.
Yep. Anybody have a disagreement on that? No. Okay. Doug, you got anything to say on that? Okay. Mike? You like tacos too, right? Okay. What fire guy doesn't like tacos? And Pete's, what's your thought on tacos?
He assumed he did.
You only have some left out again.
Everybody loves tacos. All right, if no other questions, motion on 5F.
Gavich will make a motion that the Plan Commission approve the building plans submitted by Neil Boken Harbor Restaurant Group for the property at 8261 South Howell Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all building and fire codes are met. 2, that all lighting will be submitted to planning.
You can just strike number 2 and move on to number 3, and
Add
then
it
I'll
to
help you
5.
with number 5.
All right. 3, that all mechanical equipment, ground, building, and rooftop is screened from view. 4, that all permits, approvals be obtained for all proposed new and replacement signs. 5, that all revised plans, site, building, signage, etc.
Add lighting, please.
And lighting. That would have been easy. Are submitted in digital form and paper formats for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Chandler, second.
Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Earl, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Good luck. You're welcome. Appreciate that. Yep. Wasn't here 2.5 years ago. Thank you. All right, last item is the cancellation of the meeting on December 27th, which is typical for what we've done in the past, right?
Correct. This is actually something that's more of a clarification than anything else. We didn't anticipate having a meeting. We didn't schedule a meeting, but in case there is any question, we are going to formally request that the Plan Commission cancel the meeting. That is it.
Sounds like a plan. Anyone have an objection? Formal objection? Write a letter to the chairman of the committee and...
So all we need is a motion, second, and vote, please.
All right, who wants to make
Crowell
said
move.
motion? Crowell makes that
Crowell
motion.
moves that we cancel the December 27th meeting that I wouldn't be at.
Guzekowski, second.
Second it.
I got a Guzzi second and an additional second from Seipert. Roll call.
Okay, Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Earl, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
All the big one.
And I'm trying to get it right on the 7:30 head because that's what you said. A motion to adjourn.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 7:27.
Guzekowski, second.
I can stonewall. I don't have to say roll call yet. Roll call.
Hickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Speedy, yes.
Guzekowski, aye. Earl, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next Tuesday.